Welcome. Today we're going to learn how to design a take-apart car using Tinkercad. Now this is a super fun project because the wheels spin, the pieces come on and off, you can take it apart, put it back together, customize parts, and make it your very own. It's fun to make, it's also really fun to play with. So for this project, some of the pieces are ready to go. That'll be your car top, your car bottom, your screws, and your flagpole. The other pieces you'll be able to customize and make them just the way you want them. That would be the flags, the driver, the hood, and the wheels. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you need to do is open up Tinkercad. So open up a web browser, then go to the address bar at the top and type in tinkercad.com. This will take you to Tinkercad's homepage. From here, you have the option to log in if you already have a Tinkercad account, or sign up if you need to create one. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged in. And once you have logged into your account, you want to click on the link in the video or below the video, and this will take you to the website, Make Your Own Modular Car. Notice you do have to be signed into your account in order to see this and to click here on Copy and Tinker. Once you've clicked on that link, zoom out a little bit, and you'll see the different pieces that you will need to create your car. Now in the back, you'll see 5 shapes that are ready to go. These are pre-designed shapes. You don't have to make any changes to them. You can decide whether or not you want to go ahead and start those printing now while you're working on your customized pieces, or you can wait and do that at the end. There are instructions for how to export and slice and print these pieces at the end, towards the end of this video. So you can decide again whether you want to do that now or later. But for now, we're going to go ahead and start working on these customized pieces here. The first piece we want to work on is the flag. So you can choose what exactly you want to put on your flag, but we're going to assume you want to put some type of text on there, either letters or numbers. So over here in the Shapes window, you'll see this option that has red text. So click that option and then click on the flag itself. Make sure that little circle that you see underneath the text goes on top of the flag. Now in this little window, you'll see right now where it says text, it just says text. You probably don't want your flag to say text, so click on that option and then type in whatever it is that you want to have on your flag. Now the flag is fairly small, so you don't want to get carried away here and put in lots of text. So I would definitely limit yourself to no more than 3 letters or numbers. Or it will get so small that the printer won't actually be able to print it. Now while we have this window open, you might also want to change the color. This is the color that will appear on the screen. Obviously the color it prints out is going to depend on the filament that you stick in the printer. But you can change the way it appears on the screen by clicking on that circle and then choosing whatever color you want it to be. Now you can click anywhere here on the background to get out of that window. Now you can select your text. And then you can make it smaller by clicking on one of these corner squares and just dragging it into place. Now from this angle, it can be a little hard to see. Does that fit on the flag the way I want it to or not? So to be sure, I'm going to come over here where this little die is in the top left corner and click on top. Now I can view it from the top. To zoom in, I can scroll with my mouse button, and then I can click and drag these squares a little more to make it as big as I want it or as small as I want it. Now I can use the arrow keys on the keyboard to move that into place. Now it's a good idea, again, to zoom in, look at it from all the angles, make sure it's not hanging off the edge of the flag, make sure it's not hanging over this indentation in your flag here. And once you have that placed the way you want, you also need to change the height. So I'm going to click on this center square. That shows me how high it is, how tall and thick, and I'm going to change it to 0.7. 6. So that's a 0 period and the number 6. And now you'll see it looks like a number that's just slightly raised on my flag. So that is one side of the flag, but I need to have a second side so the other side isn't blank. So to create a second flag that will match the first one, I'm going to select both pieces. To select both the flag and the text, I'm going to click somewhere in the background, hold down the mouse key, the left mouse key, drag this red box around both pieces. And now I can see I have two shapes selected, the red flag and the white number. Now to make a copy that's just like that one, I'm going to click here on the duplicate button, which looks like 3 squares stacked on top of one another. Now once I hit this button, it's going to look like nothing happens because the second copy is right on top of the first one. So I'll click it. It blinks a little, but nothing appears to have changed. I'm going to click the down arrow key to move that second copy down. So I just hold it down until it gets far enough down that they are two separate objects. Now I'll click anywhere on this blue background to get out of the two shapes selected. And now I just want to select the red flag. I need this to be a flipped image. It needs to be reversed from the other one. So to do that, I'm going to use the mirror tool. So the mirror tool looks like two triangles looking at each other in a mirror. So when I click that, I'll have these little arrows appear around my flag. So I'm going to click this horizontal one to make that flip over. Notice I don't want my number flipped or it will look like a mirrored image of the number. Now I'm going to click on the number and use the right arrow key to move it over to where I want it on the flag. Now I'm ready to export these flags. So I've done everything I need to do to the flag. The first thing I want to do is come up to the title and I'm going to change it to flag. So just click on it and type in the word flag. Then I'm going to select all the pieces of the flag, which should be 4 shapes. Then I'm going to click the word export. This box is going to pop up. I want to make sure that it has only the selected 4 shapes with a circle in front. And then I'm going to click .stl to save this as an STL file. Now I need to open up my slicing program. So I've opened up Prusa Slicer here. You can use a different slicing program. It may look a little different. The buttons may be in different places, but the process should work the same way. With that open, I need to add or import my design into the slicer. So I'm going to click on this cube with the plus sign. And then I'm going to select the file that I just saved. In this case, it's called flag. And click on open. Now I'll see that design on my printer plate. Now I need to check my printer settings. I'm going to use 0.2 layer height. I'm using PLA filament. Make sure you select the correct filament you'll be using. That's the printer I'm going to use. I don't need any supports for this print, and you can use an infill of either 15 or 20%. And now I'm going to click Slice Now. Now I want to scroll down to tell it where I want to switch the colors. So find this layer where I first see the number appear. And then click the plus button beside it to insert a stop. Now what that will do is the printer will stop and beep at that point and allow me to change the filament color before it finishes printing so that the number can be a different color than the background. Once you've done that, click on Slice Now. Now you want to go get your SD card from your printer or use whatever method that your printer uses for saving files. And with that SD card inserted, I'll be able to see this little icon down here. That will save it directly onto that card. So I'll click on that icon. Make sure I recognize the name. In this case, it has the word flag in it. And then I'll click Save. Now I can take that file to my printer. I'll click Eject. I can take that card to the printer and start my print, being sure to change the color when it gets to the number. It'll stop and beep and let you know when it's ready. So that's the flag. Now you want to go back to your Tinkercad project and let's work on the driver. So for the driver, we're going to add a face. So let's start by choosing the blue sphere here. And then just put that approximately where an eye will go. It's going to be way too big at first, but that's okay. Now we can resize that. I'm going to hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, find this center white square, and move that towards the driver, and that will make that eye smaller. And so once I get it to about 3 millimeters, that would be a good size for that eye. Now, if you have trouble with that, you can also just click and drag these white squares until you get the eye, the size and shape that you want. Now, with that eye in place, I'm going to rotate around so that I can see where that eye is placed. To do that, I'm going to hold down the right mouse button and drag around to the side. Now I'm going to use this little triangle or cone shape and just push that eye into the little driver a little bit. And I can also use the arrow keys on the keyboard if I need to move it left or right. Now I want to make a second eye that's going to look exactly like the first one. So to do that, I'm going to make sure I have the eye selected. Click on that duplicate button up here. Again, it'll make a copy, but right on top of the first one so I can't see it. And then I'm going to use the right arrow key to move that over into its proper place until it looks good to me. I can zoom in and make sure everything looks good. Now I'm ready to add a mouth for my driver. So to make a mouth, I'm actually going to use this scribble tool here. So I'll click the scribble tool and then click somewhere where the mouth should go. This will open up a new window where I can just draw. So I'm going to just draw a mouth shape, and you can make your mouth whatever shape you want. Maybe you want zigzags or something else, but here's just a basic mouth shape. If you mess up and need to redo something, here are eraser tools and undo tools that you can use. But once you are satisfied with your mouth shape, click here on the Done button. Now you'll see your mouth. It will probably be way too big. So I'm going to zoom around a little bit. And now I need to resize that. You can just use these white or black squares to make it skinnier and fatter and up and down, okay, until you get the size and shape that you want. You can use that to move it up or down. Okay, you can also use the arrow keys on the keyboard to move it left or right, or backwards and forwards. You do want to be sure that you have this completely connected to the face. So it's always a good idea to view your driver from the right side. Zoom in really close, check and make sure that everything is completely connected, that there's no gaps where he's like sticking out up here. That won't print and you'll have a mess of a driver then. And so now your driver does have a face. Remember, this will print all in one color. And if you would like to, there are instructions at the end of the video to show you how to add a hat or to make maybe some other creative things there for your driver. But once I have the driver finished here and I have a face on him, I'm ready to save and export. So I'm going to go back to the title here. This time instead of flag, I'm going to type in driver. Now I need to make sure that I have the pieces of my driver selected. So it helps maybe to view from the top. And then drag a square around the pieces of the driver. So I should have 4 shapes selected, the driver, 2 eyes, and a mouth. Now I'm going to click here on Export. Make sure it shows to include only the selected 4 shapes, and then click .stl. Now if you add any special things to your driver, it may have more than 4 shapes. But then I'll click .stl to save it as an STL file. Now I want to open up my slicing program again. Now it still has my flags on there, so to get rid of those, I want to go to File, New Project. Then I'll click Add or Import, choose the driver, click Open, and now I'll see my driver here on the plate. Print settings will be the same as they were for the flag, 0.2, PLA filament, that's the printer, I don't need supports, 20% infill. Click Slice Now. Now I can see my driver. And now I'm going to scroll down to where I want the shirt to stop and his head to start, somewhere around 22.4. It doesn't have to be precise, just whenever you want the head to start. And so now what that will do, because I clicked on that plus sign there, is insert that stop to tell me when I need to change the filament colors. So now I have that stop inserted. I can click Slice Now again. Go get the SD card from your printer, insert that into your computer, wait for that little icon to appear. Click on that icon to save it to the SD card. And now you are ready to print. So take the SD card out, take it to your printer, and start the print for your driver. Now open up your Tinkercad project once more, and we'll do the next piece, which is the simplest piece, the hood. For the hood, we're going to, first I want to change the color here. So I'm going to select the color background, and click on that little circle and change that to a different color. You can choose whatever color you want to use for yours. And now I'm going to add text on top of that. So again, I'm going to select that text option and then hover over where the hood is, click and put it there. Now again, I don't want this to say text, so I'm going to click there and change that to be whatever numbers or letters that you would like to use. You can change the color if you want. I'm going to leave mine at red. Now I'm going to click out of here. Now you'll notice that the numbers are too large, so I'm going to click there and use one of those corner squares to drag to make it the size that I want. I'm now going to make sure that it doesn't stick way up like that. So I'm going to click on that center white square and change that to be 0.4. So .4, the period and the 4. And that'll make that nice and thin. Now I can tell it's not exactly in the center, so I want to make sure that it's exactly in the middle. So I'm going to click on anywhere here on the background, drag that imaginary square around both pieces. Make sure I have 2 shapes selected. Click on the Align tool, which looks like a rectangle, 2 rectangles lined up against a line. That's going to make these little circles pop up around. I want to click the center one here at the bottom and the center one here on the side. And that'll make sure that's exactly in the middle of that hood. And that's all there is for the hood. You could add some different features around if you'd like to, but whatever you do, make sure they're nice and thin, just like that number is at 0.4, so that it will slide under the hood when you go to insert that. Now I want to change the title of my project again, so I'm going to click here where it says driver. And this time I'm going to change it to hood. Make sure I have the hood selected. So I should have those 2 shapes selected. And then click on Export. In the pop-up window, I'm going to click STL. That's going to save. Now I'm going to open up Prusa Slicer once more. And here I will see my driver still on my plate, so I'm going to click on File, New Project, click Add or Import, select the hood, and open. Now I'll see that on the printer plate. Check my print settings. They should be the same as before with a 0.2 layer height, PLA filament. Make sure you have the correct printer selected. You don't need supports, and I'll use 20% infill. Now I'll click on Slice Now. I'm going to drag the slider down to see where that number starts, which will be at 0.80. Click on the plus button to insert a stop so that I can change the color. And now I'm going to click Slice Now. With that slice, I'm going to go get the SD card for my printer, stick it into my computer, wait for that little icon to pop up, click on that icon, make sure I know the name, click on Save, eject X, take that to the printer and start your print. Now head back to your Tinkercad project to complete the very last piece that you'll need for your car, the wheel. So the wheel you're actually going to design completely on your own from scratch. So come over here to the basic shapes, scroll down until you find this orange tube, click and add that to the work plane. Now we're going to change the radius here. So in this small little window, change the radius to 15. So you can click on that 10 and then type in 15. Change the wall thickness and make it 10. So click on that 2.5 and type in 10. And just drag the slider for the sides all the way up to 64. And now you have a wheel. Now, if you do want to add some customization to your wheel, you can follow along towards the end of the video. There will be some directions on how to make some customized features for your wheel, but this is all you actually need to make it work with your car. Now go up to the title here, change it from hood to wheel, click on, make sure you have your wheel selected first, and then click on export. Include the selected shape, .stl. That will export it. Now you want to open up Prusa Slicer. Click on File and New Project. Add or Import. Select the wheel, click on Open. Now you may have wondered why you didn't create 4 wheels. That's because you can do that here in the slicer. So I have the 1 wheel selected, and now I'm going to click on this plus button, which is for Add Instance. And I'm going to keep clicking it until I have 4 wheels. Now those are stacked on top of each other. I can drag to rearrange them, but it's usually better and easier to use this button right here, which is the Arrange feature. It looks like 3 rectangles all squared up inside of a square. And now I have my 4 wheels. I'm going to check my print settings once more. 0.2 PLA, correct printer, you don't need supports, 20% infill. Now I'm going to click Slice Now. Go get the SD card from the printer, stick that into the computer, wait for the icon to pop up, click on the icon, click Save, eject, X, and take that to your printer and start printing those wheels. For the 5 pieces that are designed for you, all you need to do is export, slice, and print. So I'm going to select each piece one at a time, give it a name, call this one Car Top, click on Export, save it as an STL file, select the next one, Car Bottom, Export, STL, Flagpole, Export, STL, Screw, Export, STL, and Wheel Screw, Export, STL. So I have each of those now saved. I'm going to open up my slicing program. Going to click on Add, and I'll choose the car top first. Click on Open. Check the print settings. You can print them at 0.2, or you could even make this one bigger. Anything between 0.2 and 0.3, anything in between would be fine. PLA filament, make sure you have the correct printer selected. You don't need supports. If you have trouble printing it, you could add supports, but generally it should print without them. And don't need any changes to the infill there, so we'll use 20% infill. Slice now. Insert your SD card into your printer. And then you can save that on there and start that print. Now to do the others, you're going to do them exactly the same way. So for the car bottom, it'll look the same way. Slice now and save that. For the flagpole, you're going to do the same. Use the same settings, slice now, and start that print. Now for the screws, you want to do something just slightly different. So I'm going to make sure I open my screw file here. Now I need more than one screw, so I need 3 of these. So I'm going to hit 1, 2, so that I have 3 of the regular screws. Also going to add the wheel screw, and I'm going to actually print these at the same time. You don't have to, you could print them separately. But I need 4 wheel screws. I'm going to click here on the Arrange button to put those on the plate. Now you will notice that these are floating in the air. So if I were to try to print them like this, it would not print. It would make a mess. So I am going to turn on supports here. So over here on the side where it says supports none, I'm going to say support on build plate only and click on slice now. And what that does, it just puts some support on the bottom to hold it up while it's printing. And then when it gets done, I'll just pull that off so that I have my print. So again, make sure you have 4 wheel screws, 3 regular screws, and turn on supports for this print. Once you have that ready, you can put your SD card in just like before. Wait for that little icon to pop up, save it on there, and print out each of those pieces. And when it's all complete, you'll be ready to assemble your car. So once you have all your pieces printed, you are ready to begin the assembly. First, check to make sure you have all the pieces. You need the car top, the car bottom, 3 regular screws, a driver, 2 flags, a flag post, 4 wheel screws, 4 wheels, and your hood design. Once you have all those pieces, first begin by inserting your hood design into the hood. Push it until it's all the way to the bottom. Next, flip the car over, insert one of the regular screws into that middle hole. Once it gets hard to screw, your fingers can't go any further, flip it over and screw from the top side so that you get it all the way threaded through. Then add the driver and twist that on until it is secured on the screw. Next up, attach the car bottom to the car top using 2 regular screws. If you have any trouble with a gap in between, try flipping the car bottom around and screw that back on. Next, attach one of the wheels using a wheel screw. Do the same for all 4 wheels until you have them all attached. Next up, take the 2 flags and place them back to back. Then slide that down onto your flag post, and then insert your flag post into your car, and you are ready to zoom away. So what happens if you want something different on your flag, something other than a number or a letter? You can find an image from the internet or even draw one yourself. To do that, you can click on the plus button to create a new tab, and then type in whatever it is that you would like to find. Be sure and keep in mind that you want to find something that doesn't have too much detail in it, because your 3D printer won't be able to print something that's like fine print. So pick something big, bold, that has big lines associated with it so that it'll be easy for your printer to print. Once you find an image that you like, right-click it and then choose Save Image As. Change it to something that you'll recognize and click on Save. Now you've saved this as an image file. In order for Tinkercad to be able to read it, it needs to have it as an SVG file, a vector file. So I'm going to open up a new tab and go to picsvg.com. So that's picsvg.com. Here I'm going to click Upload a Picture. I want to select the picture that I just created and click Upload. Scroll down just a little where it says Filters. I want to change it to Internal 3. Now, if this image doesn't look like what you want it to, you can play with the different filters and choose the one that looks best for your image, but usually Internal 3 works fairly well. Once you're satisfied with that image, click Download SVG to save that to your computer. Now you're ready to go back to your Tinkercad file. Click on Import over here. Click Choose a File, and then select the file that you just created. It will have some random combination of letters and numbers, but will have .svg at the end, and then click Upload. Now, before you upload it, you want to change the dimensions, otherwise it'll be so big it takes over your whole screen. So click on the width or the length and type in 50, enter, the other dimension will adjust automatically, and then click Import. Now that will import. You can click it, you can change the color if you like. Then you can, let's first change the work plane to be the top of the object. So I'm going to click on this grid button, which is the work plane tool, and then click on top of the flag or the hood if that is what you're designing. Now with my object selected, I'm going to click D on the keyboard to drop it on top of that work plane. Now I need to resize it so that it'll fit in the space that I have for it. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and resize until it will fit on the space that I have. I can use the arrow keys to move it into space, and then I can resize again if it's still too large or too small. Okay, rotate around so that you do view it from the top to make sure that it is where it needs to be. Now I just need to adjust the height. So I'm going to click on that center square, and if you're working on the flag, you want to change it to 0.6, so 0.6. If you're working on the hood, change it to 0.4 to make it even thinner so that it will slide under that hood even better. So either 0.6 for the flag or 0.4 for the hood. And now if you are working on the flag, you will need to create a second copy. So I'm going to change my work plane back to normal by clicking work plane and then anywhere on the background. Now I'm going to select both the flag and my image. Select duplicate first, which looks like those three squares stacked on top of one another. Then create or click on mirror, which looks like the two triangles looking at one another in the mirror. Okay, that will make a second copy. And I'm just going to click the down button on the keyboard to move it down into position. Now, depending on what image you created, you may need to mirror this back. My image is symmetric, so it doesn't matter, but you might need to click on mirror and then horizontal mirror that back. But then I have two flags. You can use the same procedure to find a logo or another design for your hood. Just to keep in mind, you don't want it too detailed, too small, or it won't show up well. It won't be able to print well. Now that you've created a face for your driver, you may want to create a hat or maybe even some other accessories for him. I will show you here how to quickly create a baseball cap. You could create some different type of hat for him, more of a cowboy or top hat style. You could Get creative with whatever you might want to create, but this will show you how to make a baseball style hat. So to do that, I'm going to start with a round roof. This will be the brim. So I'll click on that turquoise colored round roof and then click on the work plane to add that on there. I'm going to rotate around to the right side. You can use the die or hold the right mouse button. And now I'm going to use the curved arrow to flip that over onto its side. So I'm going to be careful to stay inside that blue circle and go exactly 90 degrees. Now I'll click D on the keyboard to drop that back onto the work plane. Now I'm going to resize it to make it thinner. I'm going to click on this white square and then drag it down to about 2 millimeters. Now I'm going to add the actual cap part using the half sphere here. Just add that onto the work plane. Now you can just resize it to make it approximately the size you want. So just click and drag those black or white squares. Zoom in, make sure that you don't have any edges like that sticking out. If you do, you can use the arrow keys to move it in just a little bit more. Once you are happy with the way your hat looks, you can select both objects. If you want to check to make sure everything's aligned, you can use these line tool, which looks like 2 rectangles against the line. Make sure that center square there is grayed out. If it's not, click on it and it will center the 2 objects. With them both still selected, I'll click here on the group tool, which looks like a square and a circle joined together. That will turn it all into one single shape that'll allow me to resize and everything I want together. Now let's go ahead and figure out how to put the hat onto the driver. So with the hat selected, I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select the driver. Then I'm going to click the Align tool, click on the driver, center and center. Click anywhere on the background to get out of that Align tool. Select the hat, and then I'm going to use this triangle or cone shape and raise it up on top of his head till it's in approximately the right spot. Now I can also use the white arrow key, white squares here to resize. Be sure whatever you do that you do look at him from all the different angles. Okay, and then you may have to realign or use the arrow keys to put it back in its spot until you're happy with the way the hat looks. You could even rotate a little if it's in his eyes, so I'll just use that little rotational arrow. Don't want to rotate quite that much, so if you go out of that blue circle, then you'll be able to rotate just a little bit at a time. Position that back into place until I'm happy with his hat. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you add a hat or accessories, if you have something that is overhanging like you do on the brim of this hat, you do want to turn support material on so that this won't just fall to the plate as it's printing. So if you do add something like a hat with an overhang here, you want to be sure and turn the support material on when you go to print. Now, once you have your basic shape for your wheel, you may want to add something more creative to it. I'm going to show you how to add some lines that make it look a little bit like spokes, but you could use a lot of different shapes to add some creative touches to the wheel. You could use the cylinder shape, a heart, there's a star down here. You could even search here for some curved text and write something around the wheel. So you have a lot of different options, but again, I'm going to show you how to make some designs using the box feature here. So the first thing I want to do is select the box feature. If you choose a different feature, so for example, if I choose a solid feature, the solid box, you can always turn it into a hole by clicking on the hole option there. Now, once you have that shape on the wheel, you can then resize it as you need to. Again, be sure you are viewing the wheel from the top, or you might get some distortions here that you can't tell. It's also a good idea now to hold down that right mouse button and try to view a little bit around so you can get a better idea of what that looks like. Now I want to line this up so that it's exactly in the center. So I'm going to click on the background and drag a rectangle around both of those shapes. Make sure I have 2 shapes selected. Click on the Align tool. And then I want to center using that black dot there at the bottom. Now I'm going to click anywhere to exit the Align tool. Now I will select that whole box that I've created. And I'm going to click D on the keyboard to drop it all the way to the bottom. So I can see it will go all the way through now. If you don't want it to go all the way through, I'll click undo just to show you what to do if you don't want it to go all the way through. You can use the black cone or triangle shape here and just make it indent as much as you would like for it to. But I want mine to go all the way through, so again, I'm going to click D and make it go all the way. Now, the next thing I want to do is create another one that's directly across from this one. So I'm going to click the duplicate tool. It's going to appear that nothing happens because it's right on top of the first one. And now I'm just going to click the down arrow key on the keyboard to get that approximately where I want it to be. Again, it can help to look at it from different angle to make sure that that's about in the center between here and here. Now I've got the 2 holes created. I have one selected. Hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and select the other. Now you have both of those shapes selected. Group them together using this group button, the square and the circle joined together. Now I want to make sure those are directly in the center of the whole wheel. So I have them selected. Hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, select the wheel. Now I'm going to use the Align tool, which is this one here. And now I'm going to click on this center circle on this side to make sure those are directly in the center of that circle. Now I'll click anywhere to exit the Align tool. Now I'm going to click on these grouped squares, so it'll select both of them when I do. Now I'm going to click Duplicate. And now I'm going to use this curved arrow to rotate, and I want to rotate exactly 60 degrees. Okay, if I mess up and do 61, I'm going to stop real quick and type in 60. And now when I click Duplicate, it'll put another pair of squares exactly where they should be. Now, if that doesn't work for you, it may be because you didn't do that in one single step. If you don't do it one single step, it won't work. So let me show you one more time. Okay, if it doesn't work, be sure you hit Duplicate, rotate 60 degrees, and hit Duplicate again. If you do any extra steps in there, it won't work, and you'll have to actually place these. Now, once you have all your shapes there, I'm going to select all of them, group that together, and now I have a designer wheel. You don't need to create multiple wheels unless you want them all to be different. But if you want all 4 wheels to be the same, just create the one wheel, and then in your slicing program, you'll use the Add Instance button to add multiple wheels to print out all at the same time.